Okay, today's lesson is let's try to figure out how we are going to solve those multi-step equations. I don't know about you, but sometimes those word problems, I love to avoid them. And then sometimes actually it was a little bit easier to do this. What are you going to need today? Yeah, definitely need a calculator and something to write this down on right here. So I'm going to try to give you some tips. On an earlier video, I did an example like this where we talked about buying headphones, buying some more, spending some money. And I probably didn't write out any words in there. I'm going to try to write out some words in the next one. So things to remember is if there's any like terms, let's try to combine them before we move forward. And then you're going to go into, and hopefully we'll get to a two-step equation where you're going to do the opposite of adding and subtracting. And then your last step will probably be either division or multiplication. A lot of these word problems, they lend themselves to a lot of division as the last step. So you can kind of glance at this one, look back at some other videos if you need a little bit of practice on this one. So I'm going to try to get through one example here, and I'm hope that's going to help you out. And might have covered, might not have covered, is how to make a percent into a decimal. I think of a movie from, I believe it's Madagascar, where they do Move It, that song. You got to move the decimal twice. So basically you're dividing by 100. So let me choose color here if you don't mind. Sorry about that. I didn't do this ahead of time. Is we're going to make 20% into a decimal. So if you basically take 20, you divide it by 100, you're going to start to get a decimal. You can leave it as 2/10, and you can leave the 0 in there. That doesn't really matter. On the next one, 15%. Think about it for a moment. You move the decimal twice. Now that's going from the right-hand side, and you're going to get 15 hundredths. 8%, I could either have this answer or this answer. Now, the answer that's going to be best is the one that's obviously correct. You divide it by 100, so that's twice. So you're going to have 8 hundredths on this one. And you can put the 0 in front of it. You don't necessarily have to. So make sure you know how to do that. We're going to take a look at this question right here. I've done a similar one in my classroom. We're talking about somebody going on a date. And it's common practice, for one individual to actually pay for the meal. So if you look at this one right here, go to a roadkill diner and you're using a gift certificate. You're going to do a 16% tip. I don't know why it's not the standard 15 or 20%, so we just got to make it a little bit different. And then obviously we take off the gift certificate, and he's going to be paying $8.42. So it's kind of like a cheap evening. Now I've got to think about what is the unknown in here. I don't know. Let me think. It says the paid cash. What was the original bill? So the original bill is going to be my variable. So when I'm done with this, I can figure out how much the bill was, how much the tax was, and then I can double check and make sure everything is correct. So what I like to do is I like to use words when it's possible to kind of make a little bit of sense of everything. So if I go out to dinner, I will get a bill. And let me think about this. Am I going to add or subtract a tip? Well, I'm going to add a tip in to whatever I'm doing. So if I've got a $100 bill, 20% tip, I have to leave $20 tip, and I'm going to spend $120 that evening. Okay, certificates. Am I going to add or subtract those? Well, that's going to come off my total. So I will take off the certificate, and then that's going to equal what my total is. So some easy ones are, okay, I have a $100 bill, $20 tip, I'm spending $120. Maybe I get a $50 gift card or gift certificate for the holidays, so that's taking $50 off. I got to spend $70. So let's try to use these right in here. I'm going to start off with the basic. Is whatever variable you're going to use, that is your bill. Here's a challenging one for you. I have to add a tip in. Now, how much is the tip going to be? Let me think. It was 16%, so let me make that into a decimal. Let's divide that by 100, and I am going to get 16 hundredths. Now, if I leave it just as it, that means that you left a 16-cent tip. You've got to take 16% of some number. I mean, this is kind of hard to think about, but you don't know that number, so that's going to be your variable. Okay, so this is the tricky part. Your bill plus your tip is going to be the total. Now, you're accustomed. It was easy for the 100 and the $20, but this time it's going to be an X and then 16 hundredths. Then you need to just subtract how much your gift card was, which was $20, I believe. And that is going to be equal to, I believe it's $8.42. So let's see if that makes sense. Bill, tip, minus certificate equals our total. There are a couple ways to do this, but what I like to do first is I like to combine these together. I'm going to throw a 1 in front of this x, and that's going to help us out. Because we're going to add 1 in 1600ths. If you don't trust yourself, grab a calculator, and you're going to get 1 in 1600ths x. Then you got that minus 20, and that should all total to $8.42. So now I've simplified. I've combined these two. Then I just have to do the opposite. I'm going to add 20 to both sides to balance that equation. And then I'm going to be left with the bill, and the tax is equal to $28.42. Okay. So the next thing I need to do is I just have to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by the bill and the tax, which is 1 in 1600ths. So I'll put it on this side also. I'm going to pause. I'm going to grab a calculator and you check to make sure that I'm doing my math right. I'm going to go 28.42 divided by 1 in 1600ths. And I get 24 and 5/10. Well, translation, x, right, equals $24.50 for, what are we talking about? The bill. And sometimes you're going to get answers, and you just kind of see if that makes sense to you. So we got $24.50. Let me double check here. All right, if my bill was $24.50, I'm definitely going to be paying that amount. Then I got to do a tip. So I got $24.50. I'm going to multiply that by 16%. That's 1600. I'm going to leave, wow, $3.92. Maybe some of us would probably round that to $4, but you know, this guy's cheap. So if I total this together, let me go plus $24.50. I get $28.42. So that's what he spent. But wait a second. He had that gift card, gift certificate. He subtracted $20 from this. And then he was responsible for only $8.42. So I think we're right on this one. So I think we could possibly be correct with these questions right here. Is this a bill, a tip, certificate, and we subtract those. I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to show you another video. Okay, this is another one that you can try. I'm not necessarily going to work it out for you, but I'm going to make you to think a little bit right here. Is we have a $25 gift certificate, a 15% tip, and a $25 gift card. So basically, I just changed these. So try to set it up. Maybe hit pause, and I'm going to give you some real quick hints and see how well you do. All right, what should have you done? Well, let's make these into a little bit larger size so that you can actually see them. Is you're going to start off with your bill. Once you've got your bill, then you have your tip, then you have your certificate, and then your amount paid. So I know each one's going to be a little bit different, but just think about this one. I know it's going to be the same as the last one. Your bill, you're going to add the tip to it. When you have certificate, you're going to subtract, and it's going to be equal. Some of the questions you're going to be asked are going to be a little bit different than this, but think about it with the words. And hopefully you've done an X. Got the X here. You have 1500ths. Don't forget the X. Subtracted 25 is equal to 680. All right. Good luck with this. Try this. I'm hoping that this was helpful to you. Think about it. What's going on? What am I adding? Before you get numbers and get confused, there's without the words.